Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be very brief, but I'm very grateful for the honor to share with you a presentation on a paper to talk about the cybersecurity and machine learning with the view of trying to come up with a Bayesian network model that I developed, which is useful both in machine learning and cybersecurity. So my presentation is going to be looking at a few things, and I'm going to start off with the introduction, then I'll go on to just share with you some approaches that I take on literature review, and then also share with you then what came out of this research after discussing the research methodology. Right, so this paper is basically looking at cybersecurity, and we are simply saying that in cybersecurity, what is becoming important these days is to look at tools that can enable us to effectively manage the challenges associated with cybersecurity. There is a phenomenal growth in the use of internet-based technologies, and so this is why then we have to make use of appropriate tools. And there are two major areas of tools. The first set of tools, comes from artificial intelligence, where we want to explore the use of artificial intelligence paradigms and see how these can assist us to come up with systems that can handle complexity associated with cybersecurity. The other area of tools is also on the mathematical side in deriving a Bayesian network model that can be able to also assist us to structure and come up with a design for a system that can handle cybersecurity challenges that we face. And so this is what what this paper is all about. And so we have to look at ways in which we fix this problem. So some of the tools we have to use include not only just modern tools, but other rudimentary tools that are important in research. Now, let me start off with just a brief understanding of the machine learning. The purpose of machine learning is for us to look at the use of computers that can learn. For example, you may want to use a computer to teach you or help you to come up with ways in which you can drive more effectively. In other words, you want to be able to look at ways in which you can teach a computer to learn how to drive. We drive cars on a daily basis, but sharing that knowledge with the computer system becomes a little bit more challenging. And this is why under machine learning, we are looking at that process of instructing computers to learn. And this is where we now delve into the artificial intelligence arena, in which machine learning becomes quite important. Now, machine learning comes in three different ways. The first area or first wing deals with what is called supervised learning. This is where we are looking at task-based activities, where we want to learn based on specific tasks. And then we have the unsupervised learning, where we are focusing a lot more on data-driven inputs that are important. And then thirdly, there is the reinforcement learning, where data is used in the form of sequence of actions and activities. And so we then look at these in different ways. So the three levels of machine learning can be used in different combinations. There are some circumstances where supervised learning is more appropriate, and sometimes unsupervised learning, which is more data-driven. And then on reinforcement, we will be focusing a lot more on algorithmic approaches. In other words, those specific approaches that can enable us to computationally do things more efficiently. And so a combination of these is quite important. Now, machine learning has been used for quite some time, and we see machine learning being used in a number of areas, such as virtual personal assistants, in social media services, or even some of the search engines that are on the internet, as well as also platforms and areas where people are looking at online fraud detection. So machine learning is in use in a number of areas, but we are extracting from that area of machine learning, specific aspects of machine learning, which we can use in cybersecurity so that we improve ways in which we can manage the cyber attacks that can come from our networks. And so when we look at such a network, then it becomes important for us to also appreciate that for one to come up with a cybersecurity system, we have to structure it in the form of a network intrusion detection and prevention system. This is a kind of system where there must be sensors on our computer networks or organizations which can enable us to sense the possibility for intrusion and or any particular threat. So sensors are important. And then after sensors, there are also analyzers. These are engines that you put in a system, or software engines that you may put in a system that can determine the level of intrusion and be able to give us guidance as what has happened or what is going on with regards to the ongoing intrusion in the organization. And then the third component for this network intrusion detection system is the user interface. User interface is that layer that links or separates the user from the specific details of the detailed system that is used in an organization or of a particular people. So this is where we see sensors, analyzers, and user interface becoming quite important in enabling us to understand and structure a network intrusion system. Now we have the Bayesian networks that can be derived and developed in a network intrusion detection system. Bayesian networks are essentially directed graphs. These are directed acyclic graphs which are derived from a graphical model that shows the relationships among a set of variables. We may mathematically look at a Bayesian network as a multiplicity of conditional probabilities for a given condition under a particular circumstances. And so these Bayesian networks mathematically can be represented in a graphical way, and then one can compute software and tools that can also guide the possibilities of intrusion and the various activities that go or that can take place in a network. So these Bayesian networks are very useful and have been commonly used in handling cases where you are dealing with incomplete data, looking at causal networks, which can link different possibilities, as well as also combination of domain knowledge and data and other principles and approaches of fitting data. These are some of the areas where Bayesian networks have been used, but they become increasingly important in cybersecurity in coming up with models, because the greatest challenge in cybersecurity is to have a model or a structure that can handle all kinds of sophisticated possibilities and combinations which we see from time to time as we deal with intrusion on the networks. The concept of Bayesian network is derived from a basic understanding of the Bayes theorem. The Bayes theorem is a theorem that expresses conditional probability, that the probability for theta given a particular condition D and a Bayesian knowledge can be computed as a function of other probabilities, as you can see in this kind of equation. So the graphical model itself then represents the joint probability distribution for various levels that can go on in a network, because in a computer network or a big network, there are so many activities that are going on. And these graphical models can come in different ways, but for a Bayesian network, the model that matters most, and which is what we are focusing on, is a directed graph. We have other graphs like undirected graphs where networks and links are just linked in a way. Then vector graphs show some interrelationships among nodes. But what is important, which is what we're looking at Bayesian networks, is to look at directed graphs which are interlinked and which are interrelated. And this particular research was looking at developing a Bayesian network that can be used in cybersecurity, and then also strengthened by artificial intelligence paradigms and methods that we look at. So the statement of the problem that we're looking at concerning this research comes from a background where we have to make use of what is available in artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence it looks at the possibilities that are there in looking at systems that can see, hear, read, sense, and reason, more or less like a human being. It's meant to simulate the way a person works. But deep inside artificial intelligence, there is one specific area called machine learning, whose focus is on algorithms that are purposed to perform as they are exposed to more data over time. So there's a lot of learning through those algorithms. They adapt and learn as they go along the way. And so we look at, therefore, the statement of the problem, therefore, arising from an understanding of the phenomenal growth of internet-based technologies, where on the internet, for example, we have a lot of nodes and activities, and cyber attacks may come from different angles. And this is why it's important to have a network intrusion detection system. Now, cybersecurity requires not only the application level of the software, but on the entire network, on the host servers, on the data level. Cybersecurity is required everywhere, from place to place and all over, wherever the stakeholders are involved and are interconnected. And so this is where we want to look at the use of artificial intelligence paradigms that can handle a high degree of complexity. And the artificial intelligence paradigms that are important in this context include the neural networks, genetic algorithms, fuzzy logic, support vector machines, finite automate, and other data mining techniques which have been used. So all these are artificial intelligence paradigms that all can also strengthen and help in improvement of cybersecurity in a given network. The objective of this research paper was simply to look at determining a cybersecurity framework that you can use in developing nations,